on, Wizards? It's Dev in the place with the decks. Case in point, here's one right here. Red-green ramp, red-green Eldrazi, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people want to call it Eldrazi, but, you know, it's only got like Ulamog in it, that's it. Well, this deck is definitely the new girl in town, you know. It's hot on the block right now, and a lot of people are trying to figure out exactly what the deck looks like, but it keeps getting respectable tournament finishes, you know, top 8s pretty consistently, with the current list that I'm about to show you here. But the deck definitely could stand to improve, and will probably improve when Oath of the Gatewatch comes out, but that's just speculation. Let me go ahead and show you the deck. This deck begins with a choice. What you can do is you can either play 4 Jedi Offshoots or you can play 4 Rattleclaw Mystics. People are sort of split on that right now. I'm sort of more the Jedi Offshoot kind of guy myself. Rattleclaw Mystic, a glass cannon in some ways, you know. Really improves your speed an awful lot. That's really cool, right? Easily removed. That sucks too. Jedi Offshoot a little bit harder to remove. You know, you have to Fiery Impulse it or something. You can't just Wild Slash it. That's awesome, and helps you, you know, maintain early game. It's a really good blocker, sort of reminiscent of Sylvan Caryatid, you know, a very, very early game, in this case, even earlier than Caryatid. Very early game, 3 toughness blocker on the ground. That's hard for a lot of creatures to get through, you know, on the aggro side of things, and helps improve your life total while you're at it. I mean, really, really good creature. And then Rattleclaw Mystic, again, just pure speed, helps you ramp creatures into play a little bit faster. So, it's up to you. 4 copies of Hangerback Walker in the deck. Sometimes you see 3, but, you know, a lot of people play 4, and I can't blame them at all. This is basically another big creature or a great 2-drop for us. Again, stopping aggro decks in their tracks, usually at least being 2 blockers for us. That's important right there, if it's just our 2-drop. Or we can get bigger as the game goes on, or once we draw it late game, we can just make it huge with all of our ramps. So, does many, many, many things in this deck, and I mean, you sort of have to play Hangerback Walker, you know, it's so versatile, and it either helps us out against our worst matchup, which is almost certainly aggro, or, you know, it becomes a huge dude against mid-range and control later on in the game. So, just, yes, to Hangerback Walker, definitely play some of these. 2 copies of Dragonlord Atarka, the only red card in the main deck. There are very important red cards in the sideboard, but as far as the main deck goes, this is it, the only red card. But, you know, while we're making these colors and while we're, you know, using land ramp spells, we can go get whatever basics we want, you know. We might as well play red in the main. We might as well play Dragonlord Atarka, you know. We're just making huge amounts of mana. And again, this will help you out against aggro. We can drop Atarka very, very early in the game compared to when we're supposed to drop him. And he'll usually take out a guy or 2 for you, if not a Planeswalker. So just, yeah, to everything about Dragonlord Atarka. We got to play at least some copies of him. But we're not like the ramp decks from last season where we play 4 Dragonlords or anything, you know. I think we're pretty comfortable with our other options high up on the curve here. And Dragonlord Atarka sort of takes a backseat, but still very, very important card and closes out the game super fast for you. 4 copies of Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, one of the entire reasons, probably the entire reason to play the deck, and the whole reason that we call it the green-red Eldrazi deck, you know. Just once the card hits the battlefield, it's absolutely insane. That's why we're playing 4 of him and 4 copies of the next card I'm going to tell you about. They are both the entire reason to play this ramp deck. And Dragonlord Atarka, just we've got some reasons right now, but Ulamog, the biggest reason, obviously. Just a beast once he hits. And you'll notice with Atarka and this and the next card I talk about, we're getting ourselves into like definite card advantage situations. You know, Ulamog is a 2-for-1. Dragonlord Atarka can often be a 2-for-1 against smaller creatures. And the next card I talk about will be a 3 or 4-for-1 some of the time, so there's that. But we're trying to forego our early game plans in order to, you know, get a definite card advantage situation later on. So that's just really what the deck wants to do. And Ulamog, just once he swings a couple of times, it doesn't matter if he's chump blocked or not, he'll win the game for you. So just everything about Ulamog makes the deck worth. What's this mystery other card I keep talking about? Well, it's 4 copies of Ugin the Spirit Dragon, and yeah, most decks will play 4 copies of them. I have seen 3 a couple of times, but our worst matchup by a lot is aggro decks. They just will overrun us before we can really get anything going some of the time. But if we can drop an Ugin, then we can just blow away all of their creatures. It's basically a board wipe right there. Just like I said, usually it can be a 2, 3, 4-for-1 some of the time. So just really, really important card. And once you've blown everything away, then you can start, you know, just dealing damage every turn with Ugin. That usually works too. Well, the deck is front-loaded with expensive cards. It looks really, really scary and expensive so far, but not to worry. The rest of the cards, very, very budget, very easy to get your hands on. Mostly because they're all cards that go and fetch lands for us or land ramp, you know. Here's our entire suite of that, you know. We're playing 4 copies of Sylvan Scrying, 4 copies of Map the Wastes out of nowhere, 3 copies of Nissa's Pilgrimage, and 4 copies of Explosive Vegetation. A really good card, that last one. Just I really don't have to talk too much about these. Sylvan Scrying, we are playing a few lands that it really behooves us, I hate that word, I can't believe I just used it, but really fits us to go fetch out. I'll get to those in just a second, but we Sylvan Scrying very good, especially on the second turn. We're not doing much with our second turn, so on our second turn we can ensure that we can keep this going, and once we do get a third land, that opens us up to, you know, most of our other ramp sweeps. So Explosive Vegetation, just super awesomely good, sort of a 2-for-1 in of itself, if you want to look at it that way. Nissa's Pilgrimage can be really good and ensure land drops throughout the rest of the game. And Map the Waste, that bolster is actually important, not only for Jedi Offshoot, getting them another point of toughness, which can be really important against things, you know, like Fiery Impulse, things that do 3 damage, but also for Hangerback Walker, you know, getting another counter on him is really impactful, especially when he eventually dies. So Map the Waste is a little bit better than it looks at first glance. We're playing 2 copies of Hedron Archive in this deck, just sort of another copy of Explosive Vegetation for what it's worth, you know. Except this one can draw cards, but Explosive Vegetation can thin our deck. That's cool, and it can get us the mountain that we need. That's cool too. So, sort of functions as another copy that can draw us cards. That's really cool. Like the last ramp card we'll talk about, and I feel like it could be replaced. Sometimes you'll see 3 in the deck, but a lot of them are gravitating towards 2, which is what we've done here. 25 lands in the deck. Yeah, that's the entire main deck already. 25 lands in the deck, and yeah, we are playing some special stuff. You know, Sanctum of Ugin, self-explanatory, tutoring up all of our awesome cards. That's really important. The rest is pretty easy. I think Shrine of the Forsaken Gods is just an incremental, slight advantage, so we'll play that. It seems tailor-made for the deck. And then, you know, some force amounts to top it off, land base. Here's our sideboard right here, where we're going to see a lot of the impactful red cards. Seismic Rupture is especially important, and maybe the entire reason not to play Rattleclaw Mystic in the main deck, you know. Because we've sided Rupture, we've got to side out the Mystic. Or we just don't care about killing our own Mystic, but Jedi Offshoot won't die to Seismic Rupture, which I think is really, really important, because Rupture is a very, very important sideboard piece. Another one weird card that's here is Winds of Calcisma. Yeah, totally play it, it turns out. You know, a lot of times that one combat step is going to be the entire difference between, you know, you being able to drop an Ugin or you losing the game against aggro. So sometimes just one extra turn is all that we need to get to our thing, you know, that we want to play. And it's cool because it's got a little bit of synergy, you know, with our huge guys, so there's that to consider too. But Winds of Calcisma looks weird, but it's actually like a pretty important piece for the sideboard. And here are your power rankings for the deck. A final score of 64, which sounds a little bit low for something that's finishing so well, but it does what it does, like, very, very well, you know. Just the consistency score says a lot for this deck. You know, we're just going to be ramping lands until we can play a huge guy, you know. That's all we're looking to do, and we do it very, very well, you know. We basically have 10 copies of incredibly impactful cards, you know, board impact cards. Once they hit the board, they just do insane things. So 10 copies, that means 1 out of every 6 cards, theoretically, that we draw is going to be something super duper bomby, and once we're able to play it, it's going to shape the game and just really give us a huge initiative boost, if nothing else. But most of the time, swing the game wholly in our favor. So the deck does what it does, again, very well. Don't let the final score of 64 fool you, because the deck is super fun and incredibly powerful. And finally, if you go with the low prices on TCG Player, you'll be hitting about $250, but if you go with sort of the median price, you'll be hitting about $300. But in a world of Jaces and Gideons costing, you know, that much for a playset, that's really not bad at all. You can definitely get your hands on a lot of these cards, too. You know, most of the land ramp things you probably have sitting around, or can order for, you know, a few cents on TCG Player. So, really not that hard to get your hands on half the deck, and you can sort of build the deck as you go through the season, because it's going to be legal for a little while. There's that. Well, what are we doing next time? Because that's all for right now. I'm either going to do the maybe $50 budget mono red deck, which I do think is viable right now, or I could do the Sultai deck. I've been working on it for a while now, you know. And I'm thinking about doing Sultai white. That opens us up to Siege Rhino, maybe Abzan Charm. If we're doing Sultai Aristocrats, we get to play Rally the Ancestors, get Valorous Stance. There's a lot of things we can do. Just let me know how you feel about all of the gobbledygook I've just spouted right there, and I'll get right on that. If you enjoyed the content, do the things, please like, share, comment, subscribe. It helps us grow, and we've been doing that still at a pretty alarming rate. Thank you super much, the Wizarding World. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. I'm Dev from MTG. That's strictly better MTG, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, my wizards.